took his life. He laid his life down. Give me freedom as yours. The storm rolled in. It was dark and then the Son of Man took his life. Crucified. You don't take his life.
precious healing of the mind. Yea, all I need in thee I find, O Lamb of God, I come.
Good evening, Newburg Church, and welcome to our second town hall meeting online here via Facebook Live as we talk about our ongoing ministries here in the midst of our COVID pandemic and the ways that we're trying to innovate and to move forward, even as we talk about what eventual reopening might look like. Tonight, I'm joined with our panel here by Reverend Gassaway, our Director of Adult Ministries and Outreach, and our Children's Ministry Director, Karen Golden, is here with us too, and we look forward to sharing a lot about what we're going to be dealing with in terms of our educational and outreach ministries here at Newburg for the summer and for the foreseeable future. Behind the camera tonight and helping to moderate our discussion and to take your questions is our Director of Music and Worship Arts, Kyle Berry, and our Director of Student Ministries and Communications, Ali Belsky, is also back there as well. You can't see them, but they are working very hard to help us bring this event to you tonight. So we're very glad that you're here and hope that we find this time productive and meaningful as you get some more information from us and as we are able to share and respond to your questions. A couple of things that we do want to start off tonight in terms of sharing just where we are as a church and how we are planning to move forward, and then we'll have a chance to hear from our other two panelists as well. First of all, we just want to share that we are in phase one of our guidelines for the reopening of Newburg UMC. And that means that we're proceeding still as we have been for the last couple of weeks. The office is open. We are restricted to groups of 10 persons or less, and we are still adhering to that as well. We have been making some accommodations for other groups that have been meeting here traditionally so that they can meet outside, and again, still meeting safe distance, but are able to fulfill those requirements for having more people to be able to gather together outside as well. We are going to continue to follow the governor's guidelines for safety, which includes the no indoor gatherings for the foreseeable future. And when that changes, we will begin the process of implementing phase two of our reopening plan. But I do want to emphasize that we will not be rushing into anything, and we will be very deliberate with all of our actions. And we're going to be doing that on purpose. When we talk about our needs for the immediate future and what our needs might be for the foreseeable future, our program staff has taken a lot of time to assess what our primary functions as a church are and what solutions that we have for those functions and those needs. And through that process, we've been able to determine what are our primary functions and what is what we're calling a secondary function. And in some cases, we have also found how one primary function has been accomplished through participating in another primary function. But that's actually a secondary result of what that primary function is. And I will define that and share more about what that means here in just a minute. With that said, I want to address what those primary functions are. And our first primary function that we have been dealing with and we will continue to deal with here is our health and our safety. That need, as we have seen, how physical distancing has worked, especially here in the state of Michigan, that comes above everything else, and it is the driving force behind everything that we are doing right now. With the rise that we are seeing in cases nationwide, and even a slight rise that we're seeing of cases here in Michigan, although to a lesser degree, we are continuing to make the health and safety at Newburg our primary concern in everything that we do. That's going to, again, overarch everything that we address, and that is going to be the primary function that we are working with. With all of that, and keeping in mind that health and safety is overarching, we've identified a couple of major areas that are our primary functions currently for us at Newburg as a church. And really, a lot of these are the primary functions of any church, but I think it's important for us to name those and to spell those out specifically as it comes to what we do here at Newburg and how we do it. And the first one of those is worship. That's why we're here. If we stop doing anything else, we must never stop worshiping. Worship is what connects us with God, and that is both individual and it's collective, and it's the vital component of our existence here. And that's been true of any church from the start of the church in the book of Acts, as the apostles and the new disciples gathered together in times of worship and prayer, and it's how we still best connect with God this day. There's many expressions as to how we do that worship, but it is primary, to our existence. Now, with that, and with the existence of COVID and our health and safety guidelines, our solution in regards to maintaining that has been and will continue to be our online worship experience. Now, I'll remind everyone again that with safe distancing, our capacity in the sanctuary is still limited to a maximum of 50 people when and if we get to that point. So any return to in-person worship will keep in mind that we will not be able to accommodate a majority of our regular worshipers in the sanctuary. And in fact, a lot of statistics have been pointing out in other states where churches have been returning to worship that their attendance has already been diminished down to only about 20% of what normal attendance would be, again, because of our limits of capacities. So that means that our online presence is going to be a key factor in our worship component, even as we would move into a phase 2 of reopening. Now, other churches have also tried with varying degrees of success some alternatives, and I know that many people have shared those. We on the Newburg staff have seen those and have tried to address some of those as well. And looking at some of those alternatives, we have also looked at the logistics of Newburg and our property and what our layout is, and unfortunately that limits us in a lot of ways. We also don't want to offer a limited outdoor worship experience at the expense of what we can provide for online worship. Now, that being said, our summer months will have an opportunity to look at some more outdoor activities as well as some possible outdoor worship alternatives that would be in addition to, but not instead of, our regular Sunday morning worship. Because our primary goal is to reach as many people as we can in worship with God's message and love. And so that is always going to be our driving force. We'll have some more information about that again later on tonight and subsequently in the coming weeks. The second piece that we want to share is around fellowship. We've already identified that as also one of our primary functions and needs. Fellowship, however, is, as we acknowledge, also a secondary component of worship under normal circumstances. However, given these extraordinary times, we have found out that what we have been doing is actually substituting our need for gathering as a community of Jesus followers regularly, and we have combined that fellowship with worship and substituted that as our fellowship. Now, this is going to happen naturally when we gather together. We acknowledge that, of course. But what we have also found is it tends to be a driving force behind people's desire to have in-person worship. However, as we've said, our health and our safety is our top concern right now. And we do not want to, out of a desire to be in fellowship, to have that to be the driving factor for our worship and thus risk the safety of others. Too many churches have already tried this, and we've seen the result. We've seen COVID-19 outbreaks that were traced back to several worship services, both in this state and especially now in other states, and we don't want to be a place where we would cause that to happen as well. So again, we are looking at creating outdoor fellowship opportunities for us to gather together in groups of 100 or less, again, maintaining with those safety distance guidelines. And Wednesday, July the 8th, will be our first opportunity for such a gathering, and we hope that you'll be able to join us then. And again, we'll have a few more details about that. We're also looking at an outdoor movie night on Wednesday, July the 22nd. We'll have, again, more details here in just a moment. But as also with any outdoor activities that we do, we'll be watching the weather, And if we do need to cancel, we will be sure to be watching that and announce that as soon as we can. And we'll also be looking at having a date to reschedule those events so that we can continue to offer them and be in fellowship. We're also making plans for future events that will be coming up in August, both around outdoor fellowship activities and, as I said earlier, some outdoor worship opportunities as well. Another driving force that we know is a high priority here at Newburg is our missions. And as we have learned, missions don't stop because of a pandemic. In fact, it's created more need in a lot of ways. I want to thank everybody first and foremost about how you all responded to our Serve Midland project, and we put together and delivered over 200 flood buckets to Midland County, and we want to thank Katie Fillion and Ali Belsky for helping to spearhead that. We're also still collecting donations for that will go to UMCOR and our Michigan Disaster Relief that's going to help with the ongoing recovery there. And we've also continued with our non-food pantry, and we're so thankful for all of our volunteers who've helped to make that happen and especially meet those needs for folks during this time. We've had a very successful blood drive even in this past week, maintaining social distancing, and in fact, I got thrown out when I went in to go and check in on people because I wasn't thinking about maintaining that safe space there as well. So good for them for doing that, and that's a helpful reminder for all of us. We've also had a couple of other mission opportunities here, and I'm just going to turn it over here for a moment to Reverend Gassaway, who can talk to us about some of those mission opportunities and how we'll continue to be in mission for the immediate future.
Well, thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. It's great to be here tonight, and I look forward to seeing so many people coming up here, hopefully on the 8th as they come by to have a little bit of fellowship time out on the front lawn. It's good to see you, Karen. I haven't been able to see you very much over the last few months, so I'm happy to see you here tonight with us. In regards to the missions, as Steve said, this is something that's ongoing and has always been a priority for this church. Missions have always been a big deal here, and they continue to be and always will be. They are part of the backbone in which this church has flourished over the years and continues to flourish today. As Steve had mentioned earlier, the 201 flood buckets that went out to support Midland. That is phenomenal. That is not something that just happens. Most churches wouldn't be able to pull that off. But due to the past experiences of knowing how to pack the flood buckets, and for the money raised and for the due diligence of all of the volunteers involved, this was something that was able to be pulled off. And I first want to thank each of you here at Newburg and all who volunteered their time, as well as all who gave financially for that. Kudos to you. Great job. We also had a mission trip scheduled for May, which we weren't able to attend. But we were able to take that group and go up as the first group of the year in June up to God's Cooperative Parish up in the UP. We were able to go in and help to get their bathrooms and their mission centers ready so that as groups come in the second week in July, they will have a place that they can meet and gather and stay in a safe and comfortable environment. This was a place that, as we said, we were the first to be able to go, so there hadn't been anybody else in there. And there had only been 3 cases in that entire county. So we felt very safe with taking our small group of 7 people up to Newberry, Michigan, and being the hands and feet of Christ at that time. The last thing I really want to bring up is all of the hard and continuous work that has been going on by our new non-food pantry. Many people are still in need and are still coming in, and it has been the non-food pantry has not stopped through this. They have continued to give. Donations are still welcome, financial donations to help support that, for those materials and supplies, for we are the official site for the city of Livonia. So if there's a need for the non-food materials, this is where they come. So we ask for your continued support, and once again, a big thank you to all of those involved in the non-food pantry here at Livonia for your ongoing missions and outreach in that way.
Yeah. Started talking these things. Thanks, Rodney. We'll hear from you in a little bit once again as we one of our other pieces. The final thing that I want to say about our missions is that as we continue to be a mission through all the various ways that Rodney has mentioned and a few others as well, we're trying to find the ways that we can safely meet the needs of our community, our state, and our nation, and our world. And we'll be putting together a special service at the end of July, specifically to commemorate what would have been Newburg's 35th summer serving with the Appalachia Service Project. We're not able to do that, of course, this year, again, because of the pandemic, but we still want to celebrate that mission and how our youth and young adults, and actually several of our adult volunteers who've continued to be a part of that, throughout the years. We'll also be looking how we will be able to celebrate and worship with our over-decade partnership with the Motown Mission Experience as well, and how we'll be able to continue to support them in the coming year. So look for those highlights of all of these missions in our upcoming worship services. We'll be looking forward to talking about them. The other piece that we're going to spend some time talking about here tonight is education. And that's one of our other core principles that are driving our operation here at Newburg. We have managed very well, especially in the spring, given our circumstances with what we are presented. But admittedly, our educational ministries are one of the harder things that we've had to work on here during this pandemic. But I want to commend Reverend Gassaway, I want to commend Karen here, and commend Allie as they have done a tremendous job of innovating and helping to keep things going so that we could finish the spring on a strong note, even as we had to face issues that we were in no way prepared for as well. One thing that we can say for certain is that things are not going to be the way that they used to be educational-wise. This is going to be true on Sunday morning, as well it is for Wednesday night and for our youth activities on Sunday night. Things are going to be different. How they are going to be different are things that are still going to be taking shape, and we'll share a little bit more about what we know here in just a moment. But what we do know is that this is a learning process, and we are going to be having to experiment with some trial and error as we innovate along the way, rather than just trying to adapt our previously existing programs and force them to fit into either an online format or some sort of remote format that just may not work. We're going to have to be innovative, we're going to have to adapt, and we're going to have to be willing to try new things. It's going to be trial and error, and we're going to make mistakes. So we ask for your forgiveness and for your patience in advance on that. And our hope is that we all see this process as a learning experience. This trial and error could not be more true for our children's ministries in particular. And so with that, I'm going to turn things over here to Karen Golden, and she can share with us what changes we might be able to expect here in the short term and how we might be proceeding with some children's ministries in the immediate future as well. Karen, we'll turn that over to you.
Good evening. It's nice to be here with everyone. Children's ministry right now is probably one of the more complicated areas with the COVID-19, because children have a little harder understanding of social distancing. It's very hard to keep children in masks. We know children can be carriers of COVID-19. So our safety for our children and our other congregational members is one of our main priorities. But at the same time, our goal in children's ministry is to let them know that we love them and that God loves them. And no matter how bad things look on the outside, He's always there for them, and so are we. So one of the ways we've been trying to do that, hopefully the children have been getting my little letters. I know I've gotten some letters and pictures from the kids, which I love to see on my phone, or sometimes I go to the mailbox and there's pictures from children, which is wonderful. I hope the kids had fun. We did summer fun buckets with Christian messages, with jump ropes and balloons and glow sticks and magnets and different things, sidewalk chalk, and different ways that they can use these to keep remembering and keep God at the top of their list and know that He's always with us. Vacation Bible School is going to be totally different this year, but I'm kind of looking forward to it. It's a time this year that instead of having the teachers here working with the children on a one-on-one, it's a time to encourage families to participate together in Vacation Bible School. So we're going to be doing it completely different, and it won't be a one-week event. We are going to have a 4-week Vacation Bible School this year, and the way it will work is we will be having, each week will be one day, which would have been one day in Vacation Bible School. And Allie will upload our videos at 6:30 in the morning, every morning, and you can look at that video whatever time of day you want. The first day will be like your opening and just an overview, and then you will have a day with music, you'll have a day with the Bible story, and you'll have a day with our craft and science. And each parent and children will be encouraged to work together, getting the message across. And then on Friday, we'll just have a little wrap-up on Friday and show you what other children around the world are doing to encourage and share God's love. So it's going to be different, but I think it's actually going to be fun and definitely more active with families participating and the older brothers and sisters helping out the children. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. And I think all in all, COVID-19 for me has been, I think it's bringing families back together. It's hard that we couldn't go out, but all the social distancing, families had dinners together again. They played games together. They read their Bible stories together. So I think it brings our families together and puts church in the home and in the church. So I'm very excited about that. And we'll have different ways when school starts. We're going to try to see what happens with the schools, with their social distancing and how they handle things. And so we'll start our Sunday school up a little later than normal, probably not till maybe October, because we need to know the ways that other churches and other schools are doing it to protect our kids. Their safety is our main priority. Also, if you do bring your children to church when we are opening up in phase 2, we will give you suggestions of things that you can bring to keep your children busy, because there won't be Sunday school and there won't be nursery. And we can't provide the materials for you in the building, but I can give you a list of things and some things online that you can bring to keep your kids active during the service. So things will be different, but I think they're going to be exciting, and we know that with God's strength, we can get through anything.
Amen to that. Yeah. Thank you, Karen, for sharing that. And again, for those of you who are tuning in, we are greatly appreciative that you're here. And we know some questions are already starting to roll in. Continue to ask those questions if you want some more clarification or have some questions about even other aspects of it. We're here to happy to answer those. As we also talk about our education ministries and our adult ministries, I wanted to give Rodney a chance here to also chime in on that and give us some short-term outlooks here, if you will, around the adult end of that aspect.
Well, Steve, as Karen had kind of mentioned, and you had mentioned earlier as well, things are going to look very different. The way that we have done things, take Get Fed, for instance, for the last 15 years, might look very different. We know there won't be meals to start. We don't know exactly what Wednesday night is going to look like, what Get Fed is going to look like. But it is going to happen nevertheless. And I'm personally excited about some of the opportunities that may come out of this. So we're going to have further discussions as we continue to see what the numbers look like, how soon we're able to get back together, and then exactly what we'll be able to do at that time. Other opportunities as they arrive, you will be the first to know, I promise. So these are things that as we continue with the adult ed throughout the year, there are still the Women's Bible Study or Women's Fellowship will continue in the fall, as will, I believe, Reverend Steve's class on Monday mornings. Is that correct? And then the Sunday morning, we'll see what that looks like once we're able to get back. But once again, that's a decision that will have to be made. We have been able to offer some Zoom classes. Whether that has, on a last Bible study that we were able to do to finish off the Get Fed season and into the summer even a little bit. And then I know that the men's group has also been able to continue, as well as the women's fellowship group, on Zoom with meeting regularly. So it's a way that everybody's been able to continue to be connected and to continue with our Bible studies using the technology that we are blessed to have at this time.
Great. Thanks, Rodney. I know there's probably a lot of questions and a lot of different ideas that are floating out there. And I think the important thing to know is that we're happy to receive any feedback that you give us. In the same token, we want to remind you that our ministry staff is among one of the, I would put this staff up against any other church in the conference, in the Michigan Conference, when it comes to not only leading, but also being a resource and not just checking with other resources as well. And so our ministry staff in a lot of ways has been contributing to information around what other churches can do, and we have been a model for that. And while, as I mentioned earlier, other churches have been able to do some things around worship that work for them, they don't always necessarily work best for us here, and that's true even for other fellowship events. So it's not that we're ignoring any of those things or that we're not interested in them, but whatever we do, we want to make sure that we do it with the quality of ministry that has been come to be expected here for Newburg. And so when we do that, we take all of those factors into account. And first and foremost is always the health and safety of our members. I'll remind us that when we look at our church assessment, that we fall in the moderate to high risk category when we factor in the age of our congregation, as well as the demographics that we fall into here in Southeast Michigan. And I know we've probably heard about those in the last couple months more than we care to as well. So with that, we're being very deliberate, and again, we're going to move very cautiously going forward. The other thing that I did want to address, and Allie is here behind the scenes working with us, we're not ignoring our youth ministry in all of this as well. Our youth ministry is following along a lot of the same patterns here that we've been talking about with our children's and adult ministry, again, with unique to youth ministry situations as well. And Allie has been very forthcoming. I know probably any of you parents, and if there are any youth out there tuning into us as well, are well aware of what's going on. And again, we're continuing to be innovative and trying new things to help us stay connected, especially during this time. We want to now turn things over to your questions that you may have for us, and some of those that may have been rolling in, and we will do our best to answer those. So, Allie or Kyle, whoever's reading those off, we're happy to take the first one.
Hello. This voice is Allie's voice, if you're wondering, or if you thought it was Kyle. Well, you were wrong. But at this time, I have one question from Charlie Wilkinson asking about if he can bring his office chair in place of the pew when we start coming back, because he has been spoiled. He wants to throw this out to you guys. If you like that, give us a like on this video. But if you guys do have questions, well, sure, everyone bring their office chair. I'll bring mine down. In the top right corner of your video, there is a link that says, what would you like to ask the staff? You can go ahead and place any questions that you have in there at this time. I'll give you guys a little bit of time there to ask. I do have one question that was actually in the thread. I think I'll hand this over to Steve to answer. The answer is, can we have drive-through communion? So I'll let you answer that.
Get these masks hooked up on your glasses here and other things, taking them on and off. I know the sacraments have been a question around what's going on. Drive-through communion. Theologically, I know these are extraordinary times and extraordinary circumstances, but theologically we have to think through what is the purpose of communion. And one of the reasons that we celebrate communion is because it is something that we do as Christ's body, the church. We ourselves, it's both individual in terms of ourselves being willing to come forward and to receive the sacrament, but it is also a communal aspect where we are gathered together as Christ's body and Christ unites us together as one. So when we do drive-through communion, we have to ask, is this just something that is satisfying our own individual need, or is it a means of grace that is building up the body of Christ together? And I know other churches and other pastors have done some things differently, but communion is really an aspect where we do it together. The second thing I want to say about that is in regards to our health and our safety. And when we're sharing bread and juice, we want to make sure that we're doing that in a way that's going to keep us healthy and is going to keep us safe. That being said, as we look at other alternative worship options when we are able to gather together later on this summer, looking at perhaps some Sunday evening worship activities and the like, certainly something like communion are going to be the foremost things, because we know that's something that people are missing and wanting to get back to, and it's something that I am missing myself as well. And so that's part of our need and desire to get back to some sort of in-person worship, however it is, because it does enable us then to receive in the sacrament together. So we don't have any plans to do drive-through communion, and I'm always happy to receive emails and get into further in-depth discussions around the meaning and reasons for that. But we are looking ahead in the next month or so as we look at that, so that we can have opportunities for communion as well, and the opportunity to be able to do it safely.
All right. Thank you, Steve. We have another question here from Susan Adams asking, well, actually, it's from Bruce, through Susan. Bruce, do you have a pay-as-you-go phone? What's your deal over there? I'm just kidding. All right. Asking if the meetings for like men's Bible study or other Bible studies, so this is probably for Rodney, how do you get connected with those groups?
Yeah, if you want to reach out to me by email or by phone between 9 and 1 on Mondays and Wednesdays here at the church, or by email at rodney@newburgumc.org. I would be happy to answer any questions and put you in contact with whomever it is that's running that particular study in which you are interested.
Sorry, over here. Another question over here is from Janice Gassaway. She's asked.
Rodney, we'll let you answer that one.
Yeah, Rodney, maybe we'll let you answer this, Rodney. Actually, this is for you, Rodney. Will more smaller mission trips be planned?
That's really going to depend on the numbers. What happens in the state as to whether we're able to do something in the fall. Certain items that would have, or certain things that would have been done, like the church camping trip as a time of fellowship, had to be canceled just due to everything kind of being closed and not being open. And even though camping's open, that doesn't mean the beaches are open or the pools or the other facilities. We run into the same things. I felt secure in going up north because so few people, no one had been up there and they had so few cases. But there are many areas in which we do mission that I would not feel secure at this time hauling a large group up to, particularly in the close quarters in which we sometimes have to work.
And I will also answer from the student ministry standpoint for smaller missions. I continue to evaluate what is offered and what we can do. But again, it's around the same concerns that Rodney just posted, is that it is all about making sure that we are making the right calls for our groups, and we want to be certain that Newburg's name is in good health through this time, and that is our top priority. So we are coming on to a lot of things with caution. So if we are able to do small trips like how we did like up north, or how we even did the flood buckets, having people rotate in, we will surely do those things as we're allowed. But that is kind of where we're at. The next question I have, and again, if you do have questions, you can ask those in that little box that says, what would you like to ask the staff, in the top right corner of your page. But the next question I have is, how and when do we get our yard signs? So those yard signs are ordered. That we just did our pre-order all through last week. If you don't know what that is, you can go check that out at newburgumc.org/yard signs. But those signs will be in as soon as we are able. I do not have a date as of this time, just due to a lot of people are actually sign people that are backed up in production. Because everyone's ordering new COVID signs for their places. So hopefully we will have those in the next few weeks, but I will be sure to email that out and make calls to those who pre-ordered your signs, that you can come and pick them up when those are available. Hold on one second as I continue looking for some questions. I saw some come through. Oh yeah, so this question can go to whoever would like to answer this one, is would we be potentially offering more Zoom Bible studies?
Yes. That is something that we will be looking at as the end of the summer comes around and the fall begins. We will be offering some new Zoom Bible studies at that time. I know the men's group is ongoing with theirs at this time, and that's always available for new people to join in and as well. And I can't speak for Steve if that's something that he's looking at in the future.
Well, yeah, I was just going to chime in on that. We had talked about this before the COVID outbreak had started there, but as we know, it is an election year, and one of the things that I wanted to do was a book study, and the title of the book is called Jesus for President. It was written actually back during the 2008 election by Shane Claiborne, who is founder of the Simple Way Church and founding member of an organization called Red Letter Christians, and which is designed on following the red letters, if you will, in the Gospels, the words of Jesus. And he wrote a very thought-provoking book then, and its message is very timely, even though some of the questions will be that are in there are specific. So that's a book study that I was hoping to offer this fall as well, and that could very easily be accomplished over Zoom and using our other online tools for not only getting the book, but watching the component videos that would come with it as well.
Also, later in the fall, I would like to attempt to do a Zoom class with the children. But again, when you're working with children, even Zoom, there's a lot of guidelines and things that we have to follow to make sure that we're not Zoom bombed like the church was this past weekend with the children. So there is a possibility that we will try to do some Zoom stuff with our children.
All right, cool. One other question was about the yard signs. We did order a few extra yard signs, so we will have those available if you are interested to still get one. You can still fill out that pre-order form, and I will just continue adding that to the count, but we will still have those signs available for purchase. Another question we have is there anything in the works to reach out to our high-risk folks, or maybe those who are shut-ins right now and not necessarily on Facebook Live?
Well, I'll start off, and then others can chime in here. As we went through all of these priorities that I had mentioned earlier on, and how we've had to address those, one of the things that we also discovered was that we actually already had solutions to certain aspects of our ministry. We just have to recognize them. And one of those things that continually gets brought up is outreach to those who are not available on Facebook Live for a variety of reasons. And we, as a church, have had an asset, or assets I should say, for the last several decades to make sure to reach out to that population. Going back to our not only very capable associate pastors, but also we have had dedicated staff people going back to Reverend Ed Coley in retirement, all the way up through to now where we have Pastor Lynn, who we hire and are dedicated to reaching out to our seniors and to our shut-ins. That asset we already have, and Pastor Lynn has been working very diligently, the best that he can under the circumstances, to continue to reach out to all of our folks. In fact, hopefully, all of you who are watching in some way, shape, or form should have received a call from any one of us here on the staff, and Pastor Lynn had maintained a list and made sure that everybody in our church directory that we are aware of received a phone call just to check in and see how things are doing and what's happening there. And those who are on the shut-in list, and especially those who are wouldn't necessarily ordinarily be on the shut-in list, but are not able to tune in, we've been checking in with those folks as well. And if we were to go back, initially in another conversation, I said if we were to go back 20 years ago, and it's probably more appropriately to say if we went back 25 or 30 years ago, but even 20 years ago would be applicable. If this pandemic were to have hit then, we would not have the resources to come to you like we are today online, or to share in online worship like we're doing now. And that's where our visitation, Minister of Visitation role has always come in. And so during this time, Pastor Lynn has been a very invaluable resource and continues to be for us. And so we're going to continue to do that outreach in the best ways that we're able to, knowing that we can't really have that in-person contact in visiting from house to house per se, but continuing to maintain that contact going forward.
There we go. I'm going to give it a few more moments. If you guys do have any more questions, you can go ahead and type those into that question box on your screen, either in the top. I know I saw someone say that it was in the bottom corner, but I'll give you guys a moment before we...
I got a question, Allie.
Yeah.
When church resumes, can I come in my pajamas and bring my Coca-Cola with me?
Hey, when church resumes, you guys can just, you can wear
We have always been a come as you are.
Come as you are.
No dress code requirement, although the 7-Eleven principle does apply. No shoes, no shirt, and I will also add no pants. no service, but the one thing that we are adding, of course, is the mask. And again, while we're having fun with some of this stuff here too, I do want to emphasize the importance of wearing the mask, not only for your personal protection, but as we have shown, wearing the mask does more to protect you from me than it does the other way around. But all of us wearing our masks together provides that extra layer of protection that has proven to be effective. So when we do talk about that, and you want to come in your pajamas, great. Just make sure you have a mask with you as well.
All right. Well, it seems that we are at the end of our questions. Do you have anything? Okay. So I'm gonna hand it over to Rodney for a minute. He has a question.
It's not so much a question, it's just a reminder here that we have 2 fellowship events coming up. Steve briefly mentioned them. One will be held in the front lawn on July 8th. That's next Wednesday. And that's a time for you to bring a meal or a snack or something to eat. Bring your chairs or a blanket or whatever you want, a way that you are most comfortable. We're going to spread out over the first lawn and be in fellowship with each other from a safe, practical distance, but where we can still talk to each other and catch up with each other, because I know through this time, though we are still worshiping and we're doing a great job of being the church, we miss each other. We miss those conversations. We miss our church family and being in that fellowship with each other. And that's a great opportunity to bring whatever it is that you feel comfortable eating and how you plan on sitting. Make sure you bring your masks. The restrooms on the west side will be open, but you have to have on a mask to enter the church building. So please make sure that you bring them, or if you're getting closer to someone else, that you want to make sure that you have that mask on. And then on July 22nd, also a Wednesday night, we will be hosting a movie night. This is going to be a wonderful evening with a current movie that will be shown. That will be in Janice and I's backyard in the parsonage next door. And so once again, bring whatever it is you're going to sit on, whatever you'd like to eat. Maybe you pick some microwave popcorn and bring it with you. Whatever it is that you feel comfortable doing. But we ask that you show up at that time. That event will start at 8 p.m. For we have to wait for it to get dark. And I believe that the gathering here next week begins at 6 p.m. So that will be a time that we can get together. Both are great opportunities for fellowship, just to get back in touch with each other. And once again, remember to be safe.
Absolutely. And thanks for doing that. And we look forward to bringing these type of gathering events where we can do so safely, because again, that's one of the things that, as we've identified, is driving force of our community is so we can be together. And that's one of the hardest parts is to try to create that fellowship. And so we're being very intentional here about how we can safely do that, especially now as we are into these summer months. And hopefully, Lord willing, as we continue to make progress, we're experiencing some setbacks right now in this country, and a little bit of a setback here in Michigan as well. And we're not able to progress forward as many would have hoped. But still with that, we have opportunities to be able to be together, and we look forward to sharing in those opportunities as well, so that we can, again, just see each other, check in, see how we're doing, but also keep our health and safety the foremost priority. Other questions coming in, or? That's good. Well, all right then. I just put this back on. Well, first of all, thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. We're hoping to, again, continue these online discussions here. At least try to do these once a month, especially as we're not able to be together, so we can share in these things. thanks again for your thoughtful questions that you have brought. We continue as a ministry staff here to work on these things so that we can do the best possible job in terms of not only being able to worship, being able to be in fellowship, but to share in the mission that we're all called to, and that is to be and to make disciples of Jesus Christ. And so we look forward to doing that in these months and in the future here as well. Got one come in?
Yeah, we had
Okay.
we had one last question that I thought was really good to just make sure we hit first from Vicky. If someone comes and has forgotten a mask, will we have some available?
Yes, we do have some masks available. We have had several of these surgical masks like I've been wearing here that have been donated if you prefer that. We've also actually had a good group of volunteers, and I'm really glad that that question was asked because that's something that we did not mention, is that not only in addition to some donated masks like this, we've had volunteers who have made the sewn masks, more like what Rodney and Karen are wearing here tonight as well, if you would prefer those, both in adult and in children's sizes as well. So if you have a child and they do not have a mask, we'll have those available for you to take home also. We are going to insist, as Rodney was saying earlier, not just with the picnic, but whenever we are in the building in larger groups, groups of 10 or less, that people are wearing masks. And if you don't have one, we are going to, at least for the immediate future, be able to provide one for you too. That's a great question. Glad that was brought up. Yeah, super. Well, thanks once again for tuning in. We are prayerfully hoping that you all are continuing to stay safe even as other aspects of our life are opening back up. We've seen the risks that go with that as well. So our prayers will continue to be with you. Please continue to pray for us here and our ministry team here at Newburg as we're doing our best and trying to not only stay in communication but also to do our best to bring our ministries to you, not just on Sunday, but our online ministries throughout the week. Kyle did a great job taking over the Monday Minute this week, and we look forward to changing some of that up. If you have not watched our latest Friday video podcast of Let's Talk About That Allie was able to put together with her interviews, please go to our YouTube channel and check that video out as well as our other videos. And our Saturdays with Miss Karen are one of our biggest hits every week, and Karen's been doing a great job with that, bringing our children's message. Well, it's really a message for all of us, but our children's message each Saturday as well. So our online ministries are still here. We're looking forward to getting back in just next week to some in-person ministries and seeing each other face to face. So as we close out our time, I'll lead us in a word of prayer, and then we'll bid you all a good night. Gracious God, we do give you thanks that in the midst of trying times for us, there are solutions that you present that enable us to still stay connected and to still be your church. We ask that as we continue to go through this time, that your healing, your wisdom, and your love would prevail among us. That as we face the problems of our world, not just from a health crisis, but the problems in our society that we have encountered and have sprung up once again, that we will be able to address those with humility and grace, and to ensure that all of your children are counted as one, and that together, through your Son, Jesus Christ, we can be unified, and together we can see our way through this, to support one another, to build one another up, and to share in Christ's love for all the world to see. Thank you, God, for all of these gifts, and we pray for your blessings to rest upon us in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.